crazy. If they had an internet back in the day, they would have asked everybody to basically post their meeting minutes online or something. But anybody that has ties to communist organizations will be monitored and controlled so that nothing gets out of line. Okay. Also, and this is pretty lengthy, and I'm sorry about this, but the U.S. government also passed this called the Subversive Activities Control Board, and basically it tightened deportation and exclusion laws, to make sure that people couldn't escape the country who might be dangerous security threats, and also allowing for people who might be dangerous in times of to be arrested just because they could be considered a national emergency. So like anybody and everybody could be targeted. Now here's a question for you, okay? We know in the 9/11 world, we know who was targeted there, right? It's Middle Eastern people, correct? Who do you think might be prime targets to be suspected of being communists? Eastern Europeans? That's a good guess right there. It's true. Chinese, for sure. Thinking of one other group. No, not Russians. Not Japanese. What's that? No. People that stereotypically have money and that control a lot of stuff in Hollywood. Jews. And there's a connection here between, Eastern Europeans, Jews. In a lot of ways, you got to wonder if a lot of this stuff is anti-Semitic. Because the reality is that most of the Hollywood studios were run by Jews. I mean, most of those Hollywood 10 guys, Jews. Does that mean that Jewish people, it just makes me wonder, how much of this is they really going after communism, or are they really carrying out even more anti-Semitism? So these are things to think about. The fear of communism really intensified with this. In 1957, when the Russians launched something called Sputnik, whoa, look at that. Yeah? There it is. Now, Sputnik, this was a tremendous moment in history, okay? Would you believe, ladies and gentlemen, that the Russians were able to send up a ball the size of a beach ball, which is completely metal with 4 antennas on it, to send it all throughout? My dad actually saw Sputnik with his own eyes, because they actually, and this is from a New York Times article, he lived in Kansas where there's like nothing except corn and wheat and great basketball. He remembers going out to the backyard because the government had actually said, okay, you can see this thing flying through space. Like, it looks kind of like a dot that's going through. It's flying at 18,000 miles an hour, and if you look out at a certain time during the night, you can see it. You remember seeing it. Sputnik led to something called the National Defense Education Act, which basically meant that the U.S. government was in no position to send a satellite of their own into outer space. So what we had to do is we had to somehow secure more funding for math and science teachers, especially, to train students in the ways of math and science so that we could send a similar satellite into outer space. Sputnik caused the United States just a tremendous amount of pain and suffering. Not because it was up there, but because of what the Russians could now do. If they can put a satellite onto a rocket, they can put a nuclear warhead at the end send it across the world, right? So what we had to do is we had to figure out new ways to fund our, in this thing in 1958, new ways to fund our school system so that we could train kids in math and science, hire more teachers. Has anybody ever seen that movie, October Sky? It's a pretty cool film, right? And it's just about the training of like how the United States actually had contests to see who could build like a rocket or whatever it might be. Because our rocket tests, I don't know if you've ever seen them. I don't have them on my computer or anything, but they're kind of like what happened in North Korea. Like after the Russians launched Sputnik, we had our own rocket tests about a year later, and it was like just like we had a lot of work to do. Let me show you this little thing that was a little newsreel just about the Russian satellite. And you can check this out. This is from 1957. It's very short, about a minute.
Today, a new moon is in the sky, a 23-inch metal sphere placed in orbit by a Russian rocket. Here an artist's conception of how the feat was accomplished. A three-stage rocket. Number one, the booster in the class of an intercontinental missile. Its weight estimated at 50 tons. The smaller second stage took over at 5,000 miles an hour and carried on to the highest point reached. 500 miles up, the artificial moon is boosted to a speed counterbalancing the pull of gravity and released. You are hearing the actual signals transmitted by the Earth-circling satellite. One of the great scientific feats of the age.
And that's all it did. No GPS, sorry. It just went beep, beep, beep. My dad could actually hear it too. All the way down. I'm just kidding. You guys are actually believing me. The Red Scare also affected our culture in a lot of ways. UFO sightings skyrocketed in the 50s. Why? Why would UFO sightings skyrocket in the 50s? Why would all of a sudden people be like, oh, what was that? What do you think was going on? Was it really aliens? Oh yeah, yeah. That's what they told me last week when I got abducted. You know, I mean, that's exactly. The Soviet Union and the United States were both testing all kinds of new technologies throughout. It's well documented too that the United States was actually flying their own flying saucer-shaped aircraft. You know, so there's, yeah, I know there's 1947, the Roswell conspiracy, all this kind of stuff. There's all kinds of things. I don't know. I'm a Christian, so when I believe I'm going to go to heaven, mostly. When I go, I'm going to ask God, I'm like, are there aliens? What's on the 18 and a half minutes of Watergate tape? And who really killed John F. Kennedy? Those are my 3 questions for the big guy. And if he doesn't know, I don't know what to do. He's going to go check Google. I'm like, oh. There's all kinds of Hollywood films that came out, some really funny ones that kind of played on people's fears. And just like, whoa, all this scary stuff that we're going to be taken over by communism and everything. Question is, what did Hollywood use aliens as a metaphor for? Did they use it as the communists or what? So from time to time, Hollywood kind of mirrors a lot of what's going on in the culture. Cold War affected, a lot of things, like for example, the duck and cover generation. Now back in the day, if you were a kid in school, you would, and I'll get to all this stuff. If you were a kid in school, you would typically be, I don't know why Godzilla's there. Has something to do with atomic stuff. But duck and cover. Anybody ever heard of that? Yeah, exactly. Duck and cover. You can be totally safe from a nuclear blast if you just hide under a desk. Lightly covered. Yeah, right. if it's 1,000,000 degrees Fahrenheit, you gone. Like there's no way, right? The United States and the Soviets both did a lot of nuclear testing in order to learn what the effects of nuclear weapons were. Kind of a funny story. They used to test all this stuff out in New Mexico and also in Nevada because there was like nothing out there. So in Nevada, in Las Vegas, they actually made it a tourist thing. See if you can follow me here. So a tourist business actually had tour buses that you could pay money to go on, right? Like, so you would gamble by day, and by night they're going to explode a nuclear bomb, and you can pay money to go watch them do it. And so you had tour bus companies that would charge people like, $50, which at that time was a lot of money, to go in a tour bus, go to a vantage point, and watch an atomic bomb rain fire over a large open fake city. Kind of like at the beginning of Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Okay, yeah, you can see that. But anyways, it's kind of like that. So atomic culture is kind of funny, interesting stuff going on there. I'm going to end class with this. This is very short. It's like a video here, just about the duck and cover generation. And let me show you this real quick. And it's kind of a weird thing that's going on, but anyways, check it out. After you watch this, you guys can tell me if you guys in this forum hall could possibly be safe and survive a nuclear attack. Here it is.